So the question is, who's going to gather around the Lavabox and get lit with me? Woo! Get lit, baby.
Josh walked into the tank looking for $200,000 for 10% of his portable campfire. Here it is. Basically how it works is you hook it up to a propane tank with a hose, and then you have a little fire on the go. It comes with everything you need except the propane tank. You can use it to stay warm. You can even use it to grill. They have this little accessory you can buy with it that works as a stand, or you can fold it up, set it on top, and use it as grill grates. He says his is better from others on the market because it's currently the lightest weight one with the biggest fire. They have 3 different sizes. The smallest one is their best seller, and it retails for $195 and cost him $29 to make. They've been in business 18 months, and year to date, they're at $610,000, and for once, this company is actually profitable. He doesn't even have any other investors, and they were revenue positive after 8 months. Pow! Time for the sharks. Kevin is interested and, as usual, brings up his millions of followers and that he's Chef Wonderful and makes him an offer of $200,000 for 20%. Damon and Lori want to know what Josh is looking for in a shark. The biggest thing is that he wants someone who can guide him, someone he can call in the middle of the night and say, should I take this path or this one? He also needs help with inventory because they are constantly selling out. And lastly, he wants to take this into big box stores. Of course, this causes the age-old battle between the sharks on whether or not a direct-to-consumer business should even try to go into big box stores. Damon, though, likes the product and the idea to go into big box stores. He also thinks he should consider licensing it and decides to match Kevin's offer of $200,000 for 20%. Next, Lori jumps in with a bit of a different offer, $200,000 for 15%, plus a royalty of 75 cents per unit until she's paid back her investment.
I've never seen such greed. This whole royalty thing is outrageous.
Look at me.
So while the sharks are super confused why she's doing a royalty at such a low number, I also was, and she gives us no logical explanation for this. At one point, she even goes, I don't even know why I'm doing it. So everyone in the tank is doing great. Josh counters her for 12% with the same royalty, and she comes back with 12.5%. Then Damon jumps in saying he'll go down to 15%, still no royalty.
Lori, he's saying no to you over half a percent?
Yeah, were you saying no to me? Mark is saying you said no to me.
Let me make it more interesting.
Then Kevin decides he wants to make things interesting and says he'll go down to 10%, which is exactly what Josh came in asking for.
Kevin, is this Shark Tank or let's make a deal?
This causes a straight up battle between Damon, Kevin, and Lori.
I think you have to go with your gut and you go
There's
with what you think
only one
is
Chef
right.
Wonderful, Josh, and I offered you exactly what you wanted, and none of this disgusting royalty.
You want to do a deal with a person that never goes camping?
I am Mr. Camp. Absolutely.
Finally, Josh counters Lori, asking if she'll lower the royalty to 50 cents, but she's not willing to budge, and they end up making a deal anyway at $200,000 for 12.5% and a 75-cent royalty.
You know what I wanted. Sorry, guys.
No congratulations to you, Josh.
Final thoughts. To start, I know there's a lot of different things that are portable campfires like this on the market, and in fact, there's been something like this recently on Shark Tank. This is Radiate from season 9 of Shark Tank, and it was also sold as a portable campfire. They are similar in how they're used, but to be fair, they're really different in how they function. For example, this thing works more like a candle, I guess. While you could roast marshmallows on it, I probably wouldn't, try to cook or grill on it like with the Lavabox. Also, this is meant to be replaced and has a 3 to 5 hour burn time, where the other is propane based and is just dependent on how much propane you have for how long you can use it. Overall, I think it's a solid idea, and I am biased for a business that's actually profitable. I did think it was super weird how much he wanted Lori, though, especially with Damon and Kevin giving him really great offers. I personally would have chosen Damon if it were me, but that's just my opinion.
Clearly, good genes running in our family.
Very attractive.
Thank you, man.
Stuart and Peter walked into the tank looking for $250,000 for 6% of their smoothie vending machine. Here it is. I think the first thing we have to note is that they did not come up with this idea. This already existed and they liked it, so they paid the manufacturer to license the technology. They have the exclusive rights to it in the US for the life of the patent, which is 15 years. They also have it in their contract that they have to buy a certain number of machines from the manufacturer, and that number increases every year. They also have an option in their contract to buy the IP and the patent from the original people for a whopping $4 million, which they say is their overall goal. You may be thinking, this must be a cash suck. And you would be right, as the brothers have already invested $2.1 million into this.
Whoa.
Anyway, onto the actual machine. It works like a lot of the big touchscreen self-serve kiosks that are out there. You just pick your flavor and it spits out the smoothie or coffee of your choice. To make the drink, the machine is filled with these proprietary shelf-stable blend bags. These also come from the original people, so none of this is their doing besides owning it. The average drink sells for $5.25 and their cost of goods is around $1.40. Now for the actual business of the machines themselves. There are kind of two routes they go with this. Either a location actually just buys the machine from them, or they also own some machines, kind of like a little mini franchise business. The machines cost $19,500 to make, and if you want to buy your own, it'll cost you $30,000. Then you also have to buy the proprietary blend bags to keep it stocked, and that's how they continue to earn a profit on those machines after selling them. Then, when they own one of the machines, they're just making money on selling smoothies. They have about 41 of them on the market, and their best machine does about $8,000 a month. They started in 2020 with $10,000 in sales. Now, year to date, their sales are $465,000. They say they're on track to do $1.5 million this year. Time for the sharks. Kevin doesn't like the maintenance of the machines and dealing with that part of the business. He thinks the more interesting thing is their bags, but since they can't separate those, he's out. Damon thinks it's a great idea and that it tastes amazing, but doesn't like that this isn't their own product and they're beholden to someone else. It's also a super cash-intensive business, and the whole situation just makes him uncomfortable as an investor, so he's also out. Mark says that he's pitched self-service food this or that every day and says that there's a huge risk in technological obsolescence, and if something better comes along, they're stuck. And for those reasons, he also goes out. During this time, Lori and our guest shark Daniel have been having a little sidebar and have decided they love it and want to make what Daniel calls a bit of a sharky offer of $250,000 for 35%, and they immediately try to counter for 15%.
No way.
No.
I wouldn't do it for 34%. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be...
The brothers ask if they're willing to come down from 35% at all, which Daniel just answered, but, whatever. Then they counter by asking to add a line of credit of $500,000, and they make a deal with Lori and Daniel for $250,000 for 35% and a $500,000 line of credit.
So we gave away 35%, which was a lot more than we intended to, but we understand, like the famous line that Mark always says, you'd rather have a little bit of a watermelon than just 100% of a grape.
Final thoughts. For starters, I assume the smoothies aren't cold. I don't know if I'm the only one who's bothered by that idea. I could be wrong, but that was my first and most pressing question. As far as the actual business stuff, it honestly just kind of feels like a money hole. To really do anything, I feel like they're right that they'll eventually just need to buy out that patent, and that road just seems so long and scary. It's not something I'd ever want to invest in if I was a millionaire or whatever. But we'll see where it ends up, because I also agree with Mark about the worry of this becoming just obsolete.
Oh my God. Whoa.
Stacy walked into the tank looking for $200,000 for 10% of her compostable flossers. Here's what it looks like, and pretty much it works like any normal plastic flosser, except it's compostable and can break down in under a year. Stacy is a dentist, and she obviously is always encouraging people to floss. And for parents, she has always recommended using the little plastic flossers since it's easier than a string when you're trying to wrangle a child. Then, while she was at a conference in Hawaii, she saw a plastic flosser wash up on the shore, and she knew she needed to find a way to help get rid of some of this plastic waste that she'd contributed to. She also brings up that she's based in Portland, and because of that, she straight up had parents refuse to floss their kids' teeth because of not being able to with the string, and also just refusing to use the plastic flossers.
So they felt that strongly against flossing their children's teeth because of plastic?
So this product is a prototype. All the ones we see on the show were handmade. She has done a small pre-sale run before and sold them for $12.99 for a 30-pack, which is not near where she wants her price point to be. She says says her biggest obstacle with all this has been trying to find a way to get these manufactured. Let's dive into the sharks. We start with Kevin. If you saw my big mouth toothbrush video, you may know where this is going, but pretty much Kevin did his thesis in college over the dental industry and reminds us all that dental equipment is controlled by 3 main companies. So he asks her the next logical question, which is why not take this to them and license it or sell it? He doesn't see a way that she can make money by just selling these by herself in a market that is so established.
Well, the margins can be up to 50% on floss picks, actually.
But how are you going to sell it?
Lori agrees that it's a good point that Kevin makes and asks if she even has a patent that she can license or sell. We find out she has a pending utility patent for US, Europe, and Canada, and she thinks it's very likely she'll get those granted. We don't get a reason why she thinks that, but she then tells us she has a huge competitor, which is the company Humble Co.
So how are you going to compete against them?
You. I need you.
Us.
With all due respect, we do have full-time day jobs.
Our guest Shark Daniel says that's not really what the sharks are for. They're there to uplift or push entrepreneurs, but not to build a business from the ground up. And he wants to go over what exactly she's asking of them.
I just want to summarize the story you're telling us. I don't have a product out in the market. I have a fierce competitor. I haven't sold 1 cent, but I'm worth $2 million and you're going to help me do it.
Her main rebuttal to this is talking about the $100,000 they raised from their pre-sale and some crowdfunding they did, but that just doesn't cut it for the sharks. Kevin thinks it's just completely ridiculous that she's wanting to manufacture it herself instead of just licensing it out. So he's out. Lori says her heart and care for the environment are in the right place, but agrees with Kevin that licensing it is just the better choice, especially with her limited knowledge of business and the fact that she has another full-time job as a dentist. So Lori's also out. Daniel agrees with everything that's been said and says he just doesn't think it's currently an investable business. So he's out. Damon says she'd be using his money as tuition. He says with where they're at, he'd have to ask for 50% of the company and then go to work figuring this all out with her. And he says, what if it doesn't work? Then I'm stuck with 50% of your dream. He says it'd be best if she just works to figure this out at her own pace and that it's just too early, so he's out. Lastly, Mark says he just can't get past how little she knows about the business and that it would make her completely reliant on someone else. And for those reasons, he's also out. So unfortunately, she ends up leaving the tank without a deal.
I recently found out I'm predisposed to periodontal disease, and now I've gone into a program of getting my teeth cleaned every single 3 weeks. That's how you avoid it.
Well, Kevin, as a vampire, you can't operate without your teeth.
That was really
That's great,
good,
Damon.
Damon.
I have to start final thoughts by saying she left with such a good attitude. She talked about how much information she had gained that she could use to build her business and was happy to be spreading her environmental message. We see so many of the entrepreneurs leaving, talking a big game about how the sharks made a mistake. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of times they do. I mean, we could just look at Lip Bar for that. But I also love seeing someone who knows their strengths and weaknesses and has a willingness to just listen and learn. It's refreshing. Now that I've said the positives, as for the product itself, it's fine, but to start, there are already reusable flossers out there. Quip even has one. This is great for like on the go, I guess, but for everyday use, I just think if I cared that much, I would just go buy one of those refillable, reusable ones. I also strongly agree with Kevin that it would just be best if she just tried to license it, but I'm not even sure she's going to be able to do that. Like she mentioned, she doesn't for sure have that patent yet, and the Humble Co. place she mentioned is already making a super similar plant-based compostable flosser. That's really all I can say since this doesn't have a defined price point and no sales and no market.
All right, get in there, Mark. It's not gonna melt itself.
Back off.
Jordan walked into the tank looking for $100,000 for 5% of his container that keeps ice cream pints frozen on the go. Here it is. I feel like this one doesn't need a whole bunch of explaining, but you put your ice cream in the canteen and it keeps it cold. It can keep the ice cream frozen for up to 4 hours on its own, or for up to 8 hours if you put it in a cooler with other items. You don't have to freeze the canteen before you use it, but it does help. It cost him $7.50 to make, and he sells them for $44.99.
So you should have made a boatload of money off of that. What were your profits?
They started in 2021 with $98,000 in sales, and year to date, they're at $185,000. On top of all that, we have another profitable company netting over 50%, and all he's put in is $15,000 in credit card debt. I have to point out that this is 2 companies in one episode that are profitable with no outside investors. Truly a miracle. Now, you may be thinking you've seen other versions of this, and you'd be correct. He says if he'd come into the tank like 2 months earlier, he'd be able to say he's the only one on the market. However, since then, 2 knockoffs have come out. He does have 3 registered trademarks and a design patent, but that patent is still pending, so... Let's get into the sharks. Mark wants to know what he needs more than anything out of an investor, and Jordan says that it's capital. He says they've had to miss out on multiple opportunities because he doesn't have the money to produce inventory or to do big purchase orders. Kevin likes the deal and how simple it is and makes an offer of $100,000 for 30%. He says he offered it because he doesn't think Jordan's worth $2 million yet, but thinks it's an interesting idea and once again reminds us all that he is Chef Wonderful.
Hey, let's try.
Oh, that's what Kevin O'Leary did to your valuation.
Jordan starts trying to justify the valuation, and Mark cuts him off to say Damon did that whole thing because he knows that they're all going to say that 5% is not enough.
You knew we were going to say that.
Well, when was the last time someone came in and said 20% left with 20%? You come in and say 20, you're leaving with, you guys
No.
take?
Damon doesn't agree with the whole when was the last time comment and says he has to be more reasonable. He gets the whole you go low, we go high thing, but feels people keep undervaluing what they get from a shark, which is more than money, it's also help.
It's just frustrating because the foundation of the show, when I first started, when we all first started, said banks are not loaning money. There's no other place to go. You don't go to some place and go, there's no other place to go. I'll give you 5%.
And with that, Damon's out. Daniel jumps out of his chair for unknown reasons and wants to clarify what Jordan's looking for. He says if he's wanting to grow and make connections, Daniel can help him with that. But if he just needs inventory financing, he should just go to a bank. Jordan assures him that what he wants is help, specifically with getting into retail distribution. Then Lori starts talking about the work she's done with Frozen Farmers from season 11 and how much money they've made in the ice cream space.
Is there an offer in the future?
Kevin's offer is melting.
Lori says what he needs is someone who knows how to run this business for him. Lucky for him, her and Mark were just having a little chit-chat earlier, and they want to make him an offer, which is $100,000 for 25% with a $100,000 line of credit. Then Damon decides to point out the difference of valuation in the offers, and this leads into what I dubbed Fight Tank.
Jordan,
But we are going to
you want to hear my
explore
offer?
Lori, we heard you.
Well,
Daniel
why,
have an
you know
offer?
what?
Let him get his
you
offer
making an
out.
offer right now?
No, I am.
You
I
guys
am
sit
making
and
an offer. I'm
squawk,
trying to save
squawk,
myself
when
time
I
because he
talk.
wants to.
Damon, enough.
I talk when you
Jordan,
say something.
Lori, we heard you for
I'm
6
trying to
hours
make an
already.
offer, guys.
Jordan tries to break up the fight to hear Daniel's offer, but then asks Mark and Lori if they want him to counter immediately, which of course they do. They always want that.
One loses offer.
Jordan, you don't want to hear my offer?
He says he wants to hear Daniel's offer, but just wants to finish with this offer first. Daniel's wondering how he finishes with that deal, but still hears what he has to say.
How do you that's bad negotiation
I gotta counter
tactics.
their offer.
At this point, they have this poor kid completely frazzled. So then he starts going back into why he thinks they are worth that $2 million valuation by saying they're on track to do $400,000 this year and could have potentially doubled that if they had had more inventory. Mark tries to get him back on track by saying a more professional business version of his famous 100% of a grape line. Then Daniel wants to ask him a question, but Jordan says he wasn't quite done countering yet. And of course, Mark is like, yes, counter now or suffer.
Go ahead and counter, because we may not be here.
I don't
Yeah,
want to offend
that's
anyone.
the problem. You know the Shark Tank.
I want
Let
to
him
talk
counter.
Daniel then says Jordan needs to learn that anytime someone makes you an offer you can't refuse, you can. He tells him not to let people bully him, and if they have a good offer, they should be willing to wait, which, burn. But Jordan will just not stop pitching them about the product and his valuation.
Stop selling, Jordan. We're trying to get the offers out.
We got to counter or listen to him.
Finally, he counters them for 15%. Mark suggests going up to a $200,000 line of credit and bringing the equity to 20%. Jordan likes the offer, but still really wants to hear what Daniel had to say, but Mark and Lori are not having it.
Anytime in business, this is good advice.
I'll take your deal.
And he ends up making a deal with Lori and Mark for $100,000 for 20% with a $200,000 line of credit.
That was a gnat. Sorry.
Final thoughts. This was my favorite pitch of the episode, starting with Mark and the fire, the actual profitable business, and a shark fight. What more could I ask for? I'd love to put this to the test in the Arkansas summer, but honestly, my only issue with this whole business is the price. I need this to come down to like 20% before I'm willing to buy and try one, mostly because I feel like I'd at least need two, and that just might be me wanting more sweets.